Today, we are diving into Karen's journey to wellness. And it's not just hitting the gym or eating healthy. She's been building discipline, making time for herself, working on her mental health in therapy, quieting the inner voice, and healing her relationship with food and with herself. Because she knows feeling good on the outside starts with doing the work on the inside.
We read the books, we bought the things. We thought we were ready. And then life took our plans and changed them. I'm Karen, I'm Victoria's mommy, and I work in tech.
And I'm Pamela. I have a baby boy named Ford, and I'm a journalist. And although we're both first time working moms, we're actually pretty different.
And that's totally okay. Because we both agree that our most important work is raising our kids. We really need each other and can only get through this together. Welcome to Motherish Moments. Good morning.
Good morning. I asked Karen to talk about this topic. She had been sharing some testimonies on her Instagram, and I found them so fascinating because even though I've known her for years, there was a lot of details I did not know about, a lot of struggles I didn't know she was facing. And I just love seeing her unpack everything she has been dealing with and working on for her benefit and also seeing the results. So I thought it would be a good idea to dedicate this episode of Motherish to listening to her and also thanking her for being so vulnerable like always and opening up about everything she's been through. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you. I really don't want to cry in this episode, but I actually think.
By the way, it
that's
was
not
very
gonna be
unexpected.
possible.
She walked in, she had an idea for another topic and another episode, and I asked her, hey, I really was fascinated by everything you have been sharing. And just so grateful that she was willing to open up and also because it's for the benefit of so many other women. We
Yeah.
always talk about this,
Yeah.
creating this space so that other women could feel seen and safe. And I think this is one topic that people sometimes don't want to talk about or share until maybe
Yeah.
they see the results. And I think it's important to share when they're in the midst of it, when they're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Why don't we
Yes.
start with our motherish moment of the week?
Perfect. So we are officially back to school. And if any of you have followed the podcast for years, you would know that one of the biggest struggles that we've always had was with Victoria is separation anxiety at drop off. We've struggled with it for a really long time. And people are like, oh, it's just going to last a couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And the truth is that it lasted the entire school year, pretty much every year that she's been in school, which is since she was 3. And so I was excited for her first day of first grade. She was excited. And on the way there, she goes, Mommy, I feel nervous and I feel excited. And I'm like happy to see my friends. And I was like, I think I have a word for that. And she's like, what word is it? And it's a word that I've been relating to a lot lately. I'm like, it's giddy. And she's like, giddy. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, that sounds so cute. I was like, it is a cute word. It's like, you're a little bit excited. You could feel like butterflies in your tummy. Your tummy might hurt because you're like, oh, I'm kind of nervous, but it's a good feeling. And it also means that you're alive and you're feeling things. And so um her dad and I walked her up to the school. We were both like each one holding her hands, walking her to the front door, and she just kind of let go and saw some like this lady that has been so incredible that always welcomes her in. She welcomed her with a big hug, and then you see Victoria wiping off tears, and I wasn't sure if she was like, sad or something. She didn't even look back, and she kept going, and I was like, okay. And I looked at her dad, and I was like, we out, gotta go, don't look back, let's just walk. And when I picked her up from school, I said, hey, I saw that you were crying, were you okay? She goes, Mommy, they were happy tears. She goes, they were tears of joy. I was so happy to be back. And it was, it's so much more than just the separation anxiety. It's her finding her confidence in doing this and doing something that has always been a struggle. And I was just so happy. Gosh, I'm you today.
Oh, I'm me too. I love that I become the crier in this duo.
I was just so happy because it's a sign of growth for her. It's a sign of also feeling that that we as her parents are giving her the support that she needs to feel confident in being on her own and without us. Um, so it's a deep thing, and I'm really happy about it.
I'm happy for you and I'm
Mhm.
happy for Victoria. I
Yes,
love that for her. First grade.
first
Wow,
grade.
that's a big deal. So my mother's moment, it's not as deep. I was
Sorry.
I was gonna do a first day of school moment, but actually 2 days ago, oh, sorry. But actually 2 days ago, we were in the car with Ford, and you know, he's not a big tablet user, I think, like
Mhm.
in general, but this new car has a little like TV in the back, like
Oh
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
monitor.
Mhm.
So he's been watching like some movies and stuff like that. So lately I'm like, you know what? We're not gonna do the movies in the car. Like we're
Yeah,
not doing that.
yeah.
So I'm like, every day I'm gonna introduce you to a new artist,
Yes.
right? So I started with Daddy Yankee.
Oh,
He's my favorite. I love him. I
really?
love him. Yes.
That's so
Secretly is
that's so
like
random.
whenever I hear Daddy, yeah, it's like how
So what
could
am
you
I
not?
talking about?
Yeah, it's like how can you not be in a good mood? And my best friend and I, Lily and I, am always like every time we hear that we're like we go crazy.
Yeah.
Just brings me joy, right? So
Mhm.
I want him to like
That's
hear
so
songs, bring me
funny.
joy. I know. So first of all, it was the name. He's like, but whose daddy is he? Like, like why is he Daddy Yankee? And I'm like, well, that's his like artist name, Daddy Yankee. He's like, okay, Daddy
Why
Yankee.
is that his name?
Yes, I don't. Um,
Mm,
so I started off, of course, with Gasolina,
of course.
and then I realized they're very friendly music. Like in terms of like his like very
Yeah, yeah,
repetitive, like
yeah.
a mí me gusta la
Yeah,
gasolina.
yeah.
It's like very safe and like it's fun. It was great. So we did like Gasolina, we did Ella me levantó. So we did like maybe like I don't
Can
know,
we
like
go to a Daddy
four of their
Yankee concert? I mean,
songs.
he's not doing anything,
I mean,
but
I went to like the closing of
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. So
it
did
was
I. It was
amazing. So
amazing. It
good.
was
You forget
amazing.
how many hits he has.
No, no,
It was
no.
amazing.
He's amazing.
So he was like, okay, because he had been listening to Carol G, Papacito, but
Yeah,
finally it was funny.
yeah.
But yeah, so Daddy Yankee was our first like lesson in
Love.
Latin music,
Okay. So are you sticking to
and
Latin or are you
I'm
doing
trying to because I'm
okay.
trying to work on the
Oh,
Spanish.
right, right,
So
right, right. Got it,
I
got
mean,
it.
I don't know if that's a great example of like learning, you know, expanding his vocabulary,
Well,
but
I
at
think
least
it's
he'll get
fine.
like, you know,
Yeah. It's better than
dale
like,
and gasolina.
yeah,
Yeah, like he'll pick up on some words.
than yeah.
But I'm excited. So that was it. That was my mother's moment. We had this little moment. He enjoyed it.
Fun.
Yeah, and he has good rhythm. So I love
Yeah.
to watch him like enjoy and
Good.
dance and yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, so why don't we start? So when did you have the idea, or when did you decide that it was the right time to
Yeah.
open up and to share this? And why don't you tell
So I
whoever's listening like what you have been doing
yeah.
on your account?
Um I get messages like when I shared, on
Everyone's
Instagram.
asking me.
La gente me está preguntando. Guys, no. No, actually I do get messages sometimes. No, it's not like a crazy amount of messages, but I do get messages from people who are like, "Oh,
By the way, I
um,
get messages about you all the time. Like
what?
Karen looks amazing.
What?
What does she do? Yeah, like Karen
Okay.
looks great. I think
That's
everyone who has
great.
been following has seen the evolution and
Yeah.
now is visibly noticeable.
Yeah.
So people are just curious to see,
Yeah.
hey, how's she feeling? How's she doing? Like she looks
Mhm.
amazing. Like what's going on? What's happening?
Amazing. That's good to know.
Yes.
So yeah, I get messages and look, there's a few topics that people tend to ask me about. Um, on people that I don't know, through social media, through the connections on the community online. They ask me about, my weight loss or working out and stuff. And then they ask me about relationship stuff. Like, how did you know that you wanted to, separate, etc. And with both of those topics, I've always felt a huge responsibility in how I answer
Hmm.
because I would never want to influence anyone to make a decision that is not that
Of
is not
course.
mine, you
By the
know?
way, I had not noticed the dramatic weight loss because I see you so often. When
Yeah.
you posted that picture that you were 50 pounds
Yeah.
heavier after
Yeah.
having Victoria,
Yeah.
it,
It's crazy because I actually once Victoria was born, I didn't weigh as much as I did after. I Most of my weight gain happened after she was born.
so like a year,
A
when you
year
had a newborn.
after, 2 years after, it was like bad. And I think again, it's tied to my postpartum experience. It's tied to a lot of things. But I have thought about how to answer the, the weight part, because I never wanted to make it about what, about the weight itself, about the
Right.
physical part, because it's so much more. And so I've tried to respond through DM, but then I just never felt like I really answered it. And so would my this is the irony, right? Like, my social media strategy is actually not very thought out. It's very spontaneous. It's very like, I feel like doing this and I'm just going to do it. And I don't get caught up in like the metrics and how's this going to work and my overall like the algorithm. I literally am like, no, I this is what I want to put out there and this is what feels right and I do it. The irony, right? Because like I know a lot about this stuff, but I treat it very like,
Right.
okay. So I got home from working out one day. I was making myself breakfast and I was wearing light colored leggings, which was a huge deal for me
Hmm.
because like, I was always like black workout clothes because that's what's going to make you look better and blah blah blah. And I was wearing these light purple and I looked at myself in the mirror in the reflection and I was like, "Oh, hey girl." I was like, "Who's that? She's cute." And it was such a good feeling and I said, "You know what? Let me figure out how to talk about this." So I sat down in one of my recording spots of what my mom calls our studio, which I turned our home into a
Hmm.
studio. I One of my go-to recording spots, which is right next to the window, and I just sat there and I was like, let me just see what comes out. And I recorded like this like 12-minute video of just talking and talking about all these different areas and I split it up into 4 parts and shared each one of those on Instagram. Um
Why did you get tear when I first read the intro? Like, what makes you the most emotional about, talking about this journey into wellness?
because I think I'm still working on a lot of things. And one of the big things, I think the most important thing I'm working on is accepting that girl, that version of me that was like 50 pounds ago, etc., is also me. And I still have to love her and appreciate her for everything she did, everything she went through. And that part is still a work in progress. It's almost like I disassociated myself and I was like, I don't know her.
Mm,
But the thing is that I do.
right.
And I look back at a lot of pictures and videos from, a few years ago and it's weird because I'm smiling, but my eyes are sad. And there's
By the way, the first thought that went through my mind when I saw part one, actually, which is when I saw the picture of like
yeah,
Karen back then, it I kind of felt bad that I asked you every week to come and sit with me and talk and smile and be open and be transparent. But I feel like there was so much that I missed. And automatically I feel so guilty for not being
it's
more
not
aware
it's
of.
not on you. It's so much of it was on me because that I was so good at that. I was so good at having an entire universe of feelings inside, so good at hiding it, um, which was a terrible thing because it's unfair to the people around me. It was unfair to my partner. It was unfair to my family. To this day, will say we never really
Hmm.
knew, and it's
Right,
crazy because they're like, we know you better than anyone else, but they never knew. They always knew something was off, but they just never knew the depths of
right,
it.
the magnitude of it.
Um, but that's what I do. I joke around and I come in. It's all my coping mechanisms, which I have learned about in therapy. And thank God, like, I have a great therapist who really calls me out on stuff and
Why
will
don't we
just
start
help me.
with,
Yeah.
people are always curious, what was that aha moment? What was that moment where you're like, I hit rock bottom. I need to make a change. I need to be proactive about it. I've been saying I want to feel better. I want to change, but it just doesn't happen. When was that moment for you when it actually started moving forward?
It's really hard to tell. So I started working out. The first time I tried to work out after Victoria, she was a little bit over a year. It was over a year old. It was during the pandemic. And I had a trainer coming to the house and actually just found all these videos of myself, like that I recorded myself working out in the side patio. Um, it's very difficult to look at those videos because I was like unrecognizable to who I've always been,
Mm.
right? It's not to say like weight or your physical appearance dictates who you are. But I was uncomfortable and I was sad. And so I started working out around that time. I would say in the first like 2 to 3 years of Victoria's life, I had a lot of like yo-yo moments. I At one point I was doing this like elimination diet. At another point, I was going to some doctor that was helping me with some sort of extreme diet, and it was all extreme. And so I think the biggest learning that I've had in all of these attempts is that it is not one thing that you do.
Mm.
Because in my case, you know, food was one of my coping mechanisms. It's what I would do to make myself feel better. It's what I would do to to stop my brain from thinking things. I think one of the biggest moments was when I stopped working. Um, you know, not working made a lot of extra space in my mind, reduced the noise, and made me hear a lot of things that I didn't want to hear.
But that
Um,
you couldn't ignore
that
anymore.
I
That
couldn't
you,
ignore, right? Um, and so I think starting at this gym that so one of the gyms that I go to, two different gyms now, but one of the gyms, which is the one that I post about the most, that gym really, it did so much for me. I was their first member. They had just opened. And I became friends with the coaches who are the owners. And it was such a small, kind of tightly knit community of people there. And it's the type of gym that, like, it didn't make me feel intimidated
Mhm.
because the
I
people
also
that
think it gave you a sense of community, and I think you needed
I
like a
needed it.
sense of like family, community,
Accountability,
support. Yeah.
community, like, I would go and it was, like, my social circle that I would have fun with, but also everybody there is, like, pretty normal, you know? It wasn't, like, the type of gym that especially in Miami here, it's really hard, you as I would say, I don't know if this happens to guys, but, like, as a woman, you go to the gym and, like, everybody's looking like, you know, they sweat baby oil, and you're like, "Dude, what the hell?" Like, "What the helly?" Like, I'm just trying to, like, breathe through this
Yeah.
workout. And so I felt comfortable there. It became a habit, and I learned that I needed to treat it with the same because I wasn't working. I started treating out working out as if it was my job.
Mm.
I with that same diligence and that same kind of routine and respect. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I've discovered for your overall well being, whether it's mental health, physical health, whatever it may be that you're working on, you need to treat it with that same level of respect that you would treat work, that you would treat a commitment with a family member, a responsibility with your child. It is that important. And I feel like we often treat it like an add on,
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm going to start working out and I'm just going to like add it to my day versus carving out the space for it and realizing like this is part of what helps you function and what
Yeah.
helps you feel good. And if you're good, everybody else is good. I was talking to my friend, one of my friends, about this. One of my really good friends, Gabriel, my hairstylist, the
I love
best.
him.
Um, and he said, it's as if in a way you had to save yourself in order to also help save your daughter through the mother that you are to her. Um, and that is kind of in a larger scale what I did. Um, so yeah, so that was the time I started kind of working out, and I started learning um, that it felt really good to do
Hmm.
that. And then comes the part about the food relationship. You know, when you start working out, then you no longer want to just kind of like trash your body because
Yeah.
you're like, man, like I'm working so hard for this. And you could tell the difference on the days where you eat better or worse. Your workout is better or worse. But I was so afraid of it becoming kind of like obsessive or too like, you know, I've already fallen in those traps before where it's like I don't eat anything with dairy. I can't eat carbs. These things are bad for you. And it's like, actually no. Like food is food. Food is another thing that we do. It's a vehicle. It all goes into the vehicle that carries who you are, right? I had to change the relationship with how I see my body. My body is not representative of who I am. My body is the vehicle of who I am. It carries the essence of the person that I am and the value that I bring. And all of these things had to kind of contribute into going into that, including the relationship with food, right? You sit down and you have some food, and it's like, it's not about like, I don't know, just I would eat with anxiety. I don't even
Right,
know
of
how to
course.
describe it. It was like you, I don't know, if I had an aura ring back then, the aura ring would be like, "You're stressed."
Yeah. There was this anecdote that you shared on Motherish where Victoria, you were, I think, trying on clothes. And I think you mentioned it recently too. But there was this anecdote that I remember you being really emotional about, where it was like, the way that Victoria sees me, I want to see myself that way.
Yeah.
I think she had asked you, oh, let's do a crop top,
Yeah.
like Beyonce, let's do a crop top.
Yeah.
And that you were hesitant about it. And then
Yeah.
you realize I need to be careful how I speak to myself.
Yeah.
And that the relationship that you had with your body and your image
Yep.
and what you were seeing
Yep.
was completely different from what Victoria was
Yeah.
seeing.
She was about 3.5 years old when that happened. I'll never forget, because we were in, my room in the hallway. There was a mirror, and we were doing a dance party to Britney Spears. And I had shown her some videos of Britney Spears, and she was like, "Let's wear something like that." And I was like, "You do it." And she's like, "Why not? Like, you also, whatever, wear this crop, wear this, that." And I was like, and I could feel just like, I couldn't hide it from her. And it's so crazy, Pamela, because now I'll put on something, I dress a little bit differently now, and I feel more comfortable, and I'll wear things that before, maybe didn't look the same, but it was more about how I felt in
Mhm.
it. And all the time I'll come out dressed, and she goes, "Wow, mommy, you look so great. Mommy, you look so beautiful. Oh, mom, I love this outfit on you." And it's no longer that feeling of like, "Oh, I have to pretend that I agree with what she's
Mhm.
saying." Now I'm like, "Yeah, I feel good."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, mama, that's great." And it's such a relief to not have to hide in front of her anymore. Um because how am I supposed to be teaching her about
Yeah.
loving yourself and your body and everything if I'm not actually doing it? Um so that part feels really nice.
How important was Victoria in this journey and her being a motivation and an inspiration? And I think more than anything, the reason, right? Like the main reason why you said, I need to make a change. I need to feel good about myself.
Yeah, I mean, she was definitely a huge driver of it, just because, I could fake a lot of things in front of a lot of people, but kids are kids and dogs. they
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 sense it, they
they
smell
sense,
it, they
they know, they're like, "You're sus." But I could tell that she could feel the things that I was feeling. Look, this is going to tie back to my motherish moment, but I one time had a session with a child therapist. Actually,
let's talk about therapy. I think it's important to incorporate. When did
yeah,
you
yeah.
decide it was important to work with a therapist? When did you realize that mental health was the core issue? I think in a lot of the
Mhm.
decisions you were making regarding your body, your
Yeah.
lifestyle, eating. So when did you realize and when did you start to incorporate a therapist?
So a lot of people also had questions about how did you find a therapist, right? Because that's a whole other thing, especially like a lot of us, if culturally we didn't grow up,
Hmm.
around seeing our parents in therapy or anything like that, it is kind of like an intimidating, like, how do you know this is the right person? And I've had 3 therapists over the last 7 years. The first therapist that I had was before I got pregnant with Victoria. She was fantastic. She actually, I went in for one thing, and every week we would end up talking about a different thing that was also really important, and I didn't want to address it. And it was almost like we would open the box and I was like, "No, no, 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 close that box. I don't want to address it." Um I probably should have addressed it back then, but I didn't. Then she left. She moved out of state. She didn't break up with me, but I feel like she broke up with me.
It's not you, it's me, Karen.
Yeah, and I was
I
like,
have to
"Why are
go.
you leaving me?" And then in 2021, I started doing therapy online, And I did therapy for like 6 months, and we never really I was able to keep everything on the surface with her, which was a bad
Right,
sign.
like just like checking the box that okay,
I was like, "I'm doing
spoke to my therapy.
therapy,"
Yeah,
and like and there I went to therapy with a very clear intention about something that I was dealing with. It wasn't about me so much, it was about my relationship. But actually, it all comes back down to
yeah.
me because I wasn't being transparent. I wasn't being as open as I could have been. Um, so then about a year and a half ago, I I was like, okay, I really need to go to therapy because I was dealing with a lot of things. And I was feeling that anxiety all over again. In a about 11 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, actually, for a while I was dealing with anxiety attacks
Mhm.
and panic attacks and stuff. So I have experience with this stuff, and I knew that I was getting close to feeling it so much that like it's so crazy because there were mornings if I didn't work out, my whole day was like I could
Wow.
feel like
Mhm.
this coming, and I'm like I don't want that to happen to me. So I ended up finding a whole bunch of reviews online of therapists, obviously trying to find someone that was in my network. And there was one that had really good reviews. I went to this office. I initially went to this office, this practice, with a different therapist for a different type of session. But then that therapist said, "Are you looking for individual therapy?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I think I have someone for you." So she recommended the person who is my therapist today. And the first session that I had with my therapist, I went in with my Karen mask. And I think she probably saw it. My second session, I thought to myself like this is so dumb. The whole
It's
point
right, it's
is to
disturbing
be
to you.
open. The whole
Yes.
point is to like really do the work. And so I opened up a little bit more, and I even said to her, I said, "I think I'm wasting your time and mine if I'm not
Wow.
being open
Yeah,
and
of
raw
course.
about what I'm really feeling." And she was like,
Yeah.
"Go ahead." And so now, since then I've been doing therapy about once a week or so, given give or take because of the schedules and stuff. And I learned a lot around um my challenges, which a lot of my challenges live within inside me. My inner voice was everybody look, I think that if you have an inner voice that pushes you and that motivates you, I think that's good. Um, I think it's about finding the balance though. But my inner voice was so harsh and
Mm.
so hard on me, even on things that were difficult. My inner voice was like, "You failed at this," and it's like, well, how do we rephrase that? How can I find a way to be nicer to myself in this process of growth and
Yeah.
change? Um, but we often hear this people talk about themselves saying, "Oh, I am my worst critic." And this is very common, but you can give positive feedback, you can give encouragement to yourself, you can try to push yourself to be better, but you can't put yourself down. And that's a lot of what was happening in my head. Um, a lot of pressure, a lot of negativity. Um, and let me tell you, it's a work in progress every day still. There's moments where, um,
But I think also dealing, like you said, you also had some knowledge because you had experienced that 12, 13 years ago. But it's completely different when you're a mother and
yeah,
someone else is depending on you. So you're
yeah,
not only you're worrying about yourself
yeah.
and about healing yourself and just kind of like quieting those voices, but you are doing it while trying to raise someone to not deal with something like that, to not do what you're doing. So what was the difference between back then, Karen, and the one that was
So I had a
coping with it
session
now?
when Victoria was dealing with a lot of separation anxiety, and we were about to go through our separation, my actual marital separation. We had a session with a therapist. This therapist was on Motherish a long time ago. What was her name? The
Velis?
Yes.
Yes.
Um had a very long session with her about Victoria, about how to talk to her. And in so we had a joint session and then we had individual sessions. And in my individual session, I talked about how I was so worried about her separation anxiety, and she was so clingy and like and everything. And let me tell you, she said something I didn't like what she was saying in the moment, but a year and a half later, I will tell you, she was right.
Mhm.
She said, oftentimes, this separation anxiety is fueled by the anxiety that you're giving
Mm.
her. And I was like, I'm not. In front of her, I'm like, "Hey, everything is great, whatever. But no, it was fake, right? And they feel it, and they feel, especially the connection that I have with my daughter, like we're super, super close.
Mhm.
Um, and I wasn't light. I wasn't a light person. My brain when I was with her was constantly like dealing with all these other struggles and challenges and worries and depression and all these things. And it was, in a way, I was transferring it to her without wanting to. I didn't laugh with my daughter, rarely. Like it wasn't real. I thought it wasn't real.
You were caring a lot,
It
and
was,
it
yeah,
was
it was not
showing.
light. Um, and that was, I think, the biggest factor in me saying, okay, full guns blazing, you need to fix this because it's affecting your daughter.
Mhm.
And that's the last thing that I would ever want, like why
Yeah.
did I decide to bring her into this world if I'm going to be part of the reason of what is causing her harm, and on top of that I'm going to sit here and not work on it. Like, no. Um, that was a huge factor for me. It continues to be a driver of a lot. I've been able to find more balance now in saying, like, I also want to be better for me.
Yeah, of course.
I do feel like I'm 40, I'm in the second half of my life, and like I want to live as authentically as possible. I don't want to put on a facade. I don't want to get by just making people think that everything is fine and that I'm okay. And in that process, I've had to learn how to face things that I've never liked to do. I don't like having difficult conversations. I don't like telling people what I really feel when it's not something positive, and I've had to learn how to do that. Um, but all of that contributes to just releasing stuff that you hold inside, which ultimately makes you feel better, which ultimately makes you, when you sit down to have a meal, not feel all this layered stuff, ultimately lets you say, yeah, I can go work out. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's all so
Yeah.
connected.
I also think, and whoever's listening to this or watching on YouTube, that's waiting for that moment, right? Because I feel like a lot of women get to a point where they're just so desperate for a sign, where they're so desperate for someone to tell them what to do, right? Whether that's like in your wellness journey or in your relationship, trying to fix something. And I remember, I've been through that too, where you're just like, and someone just like, and at the end of the day, there's so many moments where you're like, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it, but then you go back to like the
Go
same
back.
pattern, go back. So I also feel like it's important to be patient with yourself.
Mhm.
And when you share that 4-part testimonial, I thought it was important to that I highlighted how long it could take.
Yeah.
It's not an overnight
No.
fixer upper.
Mm-mm.
It's not an overnight,
And
I'm gonna
anything that
switch on
happens
this button.
overnight
Yeah.
is happening very
And
much on the
and also
surface.
it's okay. You're going to go back. Because I feel like sometimes when people go back to
I
breaking the
went back a
routine,
million
you're
times. It felt
so harsh
horrible.
on yourself.
Yeah.
So be graceful, be patient. We've all been in moments where we feel like we're not going to be able to get out of this. Like you feel like you're stuck in the cycle.
Yeah.
That's not reality, but it does take a few trials. It does take time. It does take patience. It does take grace with yourself to be able to break that cycle.
Yeah.
So I think I wanted a lot of women, whoever's listening, men too, when they hear your testimony and your journey, to remind themselves it's okay if I, fell back took a
Yeah.
few steps back, but get
And
back on it, get back on it.
yeah, and you also have to like understand that it is a change of a lifestyle, which means that there's breaks and there's ebbs and flows. Like, you can go on vacation and you don't have to be thinking about this. When you come back, you get back into your routine. Like, I remember in previous iterations of this in my life, it was like, oh my God, like I'm going on vacation, which means I'm gonna probably eat outside of the home, and it means and it's like, yeah, live a little. It's
Yeah.
totally fine,
But also you have to be consistent. I think like
Yeah.
also when I saw you before and after, just once again confirms that if you're consistent with something, eventually you're gonna see the results. But you gotta just stick to it, and like one step at a time, one step at a time. I know it's so cliche to say it,
But
but
it is.
consistency really shows
Yeah.
results. Again, even with our little podcast, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
we're consistent. Like we just kept
Yeah.
at it, kept at it. But it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. So
Yeah.
be patient. Be like forgiving with yourself.
Yeah.
But also hold yourself accountable.
Treat that's why I compare it to work or responsibilities but like you have to treat it with the same level of
Urgency
like
and
like it's important.
yeah.
It's you. It's your well-being. And if you're not taking care of you, then like what are you even doing? You can't do the rest. Um
Let's talk
so
about just to like close it off because I think it's important too, and I think it's what I appreciate the most about this transformation is emotionally how you feel, how much lighter you feel, how much happier you feel. It's like this different energy, and I don't like people use the word energy like
yeah,
they throw it out there, but it really is
yeah.
a real thing, and I think it's important for you to share how you feel.
Yeah.
How do you feel, and
Well,
how you felt back then?
so my friend Gabriel, again, I'm going to quote him again, and this was a separate conversation. This was not the same conversation, but he said, whenever we do talk, he says things that really stays with me, and I love him so much for that because when he speaks, I listen. But he knew me. I've known him for like 16 years now, and so he's seen so many versions of me. And he says it feels like the light came back on. He's like, you've always had a light, the light was turned off and now it's back. And that is like the most perfect example of kind of depicting how I feel. I i wake up and I live my life and I have my days with just a different sort of natural optimism,
Mm-hmm.
feeling comfortable in my body, in my
Loving this.
mind, in my day to day. And of course there are things that are still hard. There are things that are new that I don't really know, how they're going to pan out. I don't know. um I go through all the things that many people during similar seasons go through. Like I experience loneliness, I experience just uneasy, like am I going to redo my life again? Like what does that even look like? But I no longer feel that pressure of like you have to like work towards figuring it out. No, like it's almost like I put a I put less weight on myself to be the one that is going to figure everything out, and I just put that back into, the universe and life. And my mom always says, and I can't mention my mom, Jesus, without getting choked up. My mom has been such a huge component of my mom and dad, really, of holding me together during some of the most difficult parts of the last like year or so. Because the truth is that there are times where I couldn't. I needed that. I don't know if there's an English word for this, but like, the way that your family just they hold you
Mm-hmm.
together. Um, but my mom, whenever I would have these like spirals of like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, whatever, she always has said, you need to trust life. She's like, you need to trust that life is going to hand you the things that you deserve, the things that you can deal with, all of that. She's like, you have to put your trust in life. And that is a version of the faith that you
Yeah.
have, you know? And so every time that there's days where sometimes I wake up and I'm like, well, what am I now? What? Like now what happens? And instead of letting that fill me with fear, I actively switch it and let it fill me with excitement and giddy. That's why that word giddy
Mm-hmm.
comes around, because it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
And that could be so beautiful and so wonderful. So yeah, I'm in a really good place in every aspect, right? Like I love my my days where I work out and I feel strong. This is something that I talked about in the videos too, like because I discovered strength training. I discovered like working out with weights, and like you kind of just go out into the world feeling like yo, like if somebody attacked me, like I have a pretty good chance
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
fighting
yeah.
back. But it translates into confidence. It translates
You're
into
like, "I'm
like
secretly a ninja now."
if a
Like, I
ninja comes
became,
after
yeah,
me,
I
like
got you. Like,
kinda kinda got it,
yeah.
you know? I mean, I don't know, we'll see. But like it just that feels good. You know, I get excited whenever I have my therapy appointment because I'm like, yay, like, and then when I leave, I'm like, oh man, she really, but that's good. It's part of like the work. And I feel good with my daughter. I feel good in the moments that I have with her. You know, I feel good that I can go to the beach with her. Pamela, this is gonna sound super crazy, but like, and I've never said this out loud. This is totally wild. When I After I had Victoria, so obviously I had a C-section, and I remember my doctor being like, "Your scar is amazing. It's so small, and that way when you wear a bikini, no one's going to know and blah blah blah." And I every time he said that, I thought, "I'm never going to wear a bikini. I would never. Like that is another life ago." And I now go to the beach and I wear a bikini and I could give three F's what anyone thinks. And I feel good. I even wear like the cheeky ones, you know, to
Yeah.
have booty. And like, and it's just so great to go to the beach with my daughter and walk around with my daughter and not feel like I have to hide.
Yeah.
It's so good for me and it's
Of
so good for
course, so
her, you
liberating.
know?
And I also hope that, I mean, I know for a fact, I think going through these things definitely makes you more empathetic to other women who have been through similar stuff that never said anything or never complained or never showed anything. Um, because I know my mom also was amazing, but I remember thinking, which is just true, right? Whenever I felt like I was like deep in like the darkness of like a hole, and I was like, "Ah," she's like, people have been through this a
Yeah.
million
Yeah.
times and they're fine.
Yeah.
You're gonna be fine.
Mhm.
And you don't believe it in the moment, but then they're right. There's
Yeah.
so many, and again, everyone's journey looks different, but I do think it's good to know that people have survived all that we have.
Yeah, and granted, look, there are I always try to give myself perspective, like, you have your health, you have all of these things that you have a very blessed life, um, and, you know, you could have so many other things. There are real challenges in the world that people deal with. I don't have any of those, and so I'm very grateful for that, and I try to remind myself all the time about that. But that's not to dismiss any of the struggles and darkness that we
Yeah, of
carry, you
course.
know. But yeah, like we can find strength from deep within and change the things that we're not happy with. We can do that. We have the right, you know, we have the right to fight for our peace and our joy and shape the life that we want to live.
I love that. I
Thank
believe it.
you.
I love it. Okay, thank you guys. Until
Thank
next time.
you.